First of all, thank you so much for that. Learned a lot. I do have to ask you though, right? With doorstep delivery, with Rollins Rentals, with now the momentum, you're solving problems. And I just want to kind of understand a little bit as to how does that inspiration come to find that little hole in the market and then fix it? Because we've all had ideas. How does one act on it? What's your creative process like?
That's a good question. You know, I don't think that there's any one right answer to, you know, how it's all going to come together. One thing that's good to remember is that you guys are so young right now, and it's funny, I met with some students earlier. Nick Johnson, great kid, he's a mentee of mine, and we've been talking, and it's so funny how much pressure you all put on yourselves at this early stage. You have so much time, right? So I graduated 20 years ago. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was graduating. I was a psych major, I was a communications minor, and I just knew that I was starting to identify things that I was good at, that I was bad at. I was starting to build my momentum, as I said. And it took me a while. I'm amazed at how much you guys all seem to, for the most part, be ahead of the game in terms of what you at least think you want to kind of go out and do. And if it is, you know, entrepreneur is not the only way to go. There's plenty of people I know that are super happy and doing something, working for other companies and being in that corporate lifestyle with that structure. It just wasn't for me. But in terms of, you know, how to actually decide, you know, is this business viable or not, that's not really the question you want to ask yourself. You want to fall in love with something that taps in and marries your strengths and your passions, so that when you wake up every single day, you're like, F yeah, this is awesome, I love what I'm doing. Set goals. You gotta set goals. Goals are super, super important. And say, this is where I'm headed. And no matter what, I believe in this so much that I'm gonna get there no matter what it takes. And, you know, obstacles, as I mentioned, you know, they're gonna come. And what's cool is the air is a lot less crowded up top. I call them, I mentioned the majority with Emmett. It's actually, I call them the 5%ers and the 95%ers, which my business partner from Doorstep Liquors here refers probably more wisely. It's the 1%ers and the 99%ers. And what that really means is most people are gonna stop. So you gotta think of, if you can push through, if you have an idea and there's something you really believe in, and you can push through that really uncomfortable, tough days where everybody else is gonna drop out and quit, that's when you get up to where it's less crowded, and ironically, it gets way easier the more successful you get and the more you push through. And you get this sense of confidence that you can't buy, you can't just learn. You get that from experience. And when you do something amazing and it starts to pay off, you're like, okay, this is great, I'm building momentum, and you just never stop.
Sure. I'm gonna next throw it to the crowd. I want to see if there is any questions from the crowd, and then I'm going to come back to switching gears a little bit more toward the doorstep delivery a little bit as well. But do we have any questions from the crowd before we change gears a little bit? Oh, we have two actually. Well, why don't you get started, and then I'll come to you.
Yeah. So talking about the 5 cores, can you give some examples of how we can apply those in our life? Maybe some examples of habits that you developed that maybe weren't great, and how you now accomplish this today, and how that tied into business life in general?
It's great. Yeah, I can. It's a great question. So, as I mentioned, one of the things I learned in becoming an entrepreneur, which I then learned later on, it took me many years to realize it's not becoming a financial entrepreneur, that's what it's all about. It's becoming an entrepreneur of your life, meaning you hold the key, only you are responsible, and you've got to kind of do things a little bit differently. Beat to your own drum. Don't just fall in line with everybody else is telling you that you should do. And you know, you're going to have habits that you developed in these different cores. And for me, when I started going that financial career path, that became everything for me. And I literally put 24 hours, you know, 24/7 for 8-9 years. And I don't regret it because of what I learned and what I got out of it. But when I finally did get that exit, when I sold my company, and was like, you know, this is what I've been working for all this time, it was like for 15 seconds, it was awesome, and then I was like, oh shoot, like now what? Like, and you know, luckily, before I did that, I started developing, I realized what these other cores were. It's not like I discovered these cores in college, right? It's been a process. And so I've been kind of developing, and I've been building momentum, but I realized once I exited, I really needed to spend a lot more time in these other ones. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question the best, but I realized all these negative habits that I built in my other course, relationships is a perfect example. So I realized that I was neglecting my friends, like proactively reaching out to my friends. Right now, you guys are young. So when I talk about physical health core, relationships, you guys may be like, well, I can eat 10 cheeseburgers and I won't look any different. What's the big deal? The law of compounding, the older you get, it's gonna all catch up to you. And so if you don't develop those habits now, it's gonna get you. And so one of the things in my relationships that I saw happening, which ended up being my lowest core score, was I wasn't proactively going out and spending that time with those people. We all, just biologically, we have this need to connect with human beings. And if we're not doing it, something doesn't feel right. And we're not living our best, happiest lives. It's literally goes back to caveman days when we needed others to survive. And that's still in us. And so if you're ignoring that, and unfortunately, with this instant generation we're living in now, it's becoming easier and easier for you guys to just like somebody's photo on Facebook and to sit in your dorm room and have your TV on and your laptop and your phone and be multi-screen, right? Versus going out and spending real human time with people. And right now, it's not as big a deal, I'm sure, because you guys are kind of forced into interactions with one another. But trust me, as you get older, you've got to be proactive and you've got to work with that. So I'd say that's one of my biggest ones, is the relationship one. And now I proactively, I said, these are the things I know that I need to do, and I have poker games that I play with some of the guys, and make sure that at least every other week I'm planning something with at least one or two guy friends, sometimes groups. My wife and I have parties where we have people, groups of people over, and it just fills your soul to be around these people. But if you're not careful, I know so many of my friends that live around us, and they're like, God, this is the first time we've been out of the house in like 4 months, and you're just like, am I good? So.
It makes sense when you listen to this. I guess the secret really is to be proactive about it.
Yeah.
Proactive on all 5 fronts. Yeah. You had a question for us.
Yeah. So my question might be related to that. So I wanted to ask about if you have any daily routine, because a lot of the times we hear these speakers that say, okay, you have to wake up at 4 a.m. every day and do these exact things every day, take a cold shower at this point. So do you have like a restrict?
That's such a good question, and out of all, I told you I became this insatiable self-help book reader. It was back then. It was a lot less cool to be into self-help. I feel like you guys are lucky in a way, and then your generation's like, yeah, I want to become the best version of myself. Duh, like show me the way. What do I got to do? Whereas when I was in college, it took me kind of hitting that rock bottom for me to sort of realize like I need to proactively do something or I'm in trouble, and there was a stigma against self-help books. That type of thing. And so now, right, I've read so many of these authors over the years, and they all seem to have their own system. And so my whole thing with my book and the app is to take everything that I've learned and put it into a condensed version and to help you to develop those habits in a very simple way. Because as I said, life is complex and principles aren't. And there's not a ton of things you guys need to learn. You just need to really just figure out for you what these things are that are hurting you in each of your course, and then replace them with those success habits. So, sorry, I'm hurting a little. Getting back to your question, I absolutely have a routine, and I do think it's paramount to have a routine. Everybody's doesn't have to be the same. For me, when I wake up, one of my failure habits that I used to have was I would go directly to my phone, and I would scroll on the news feed and read about all the crap that's going on in the world, and I would immediately get in a bad mood. So I stopped that. I replaced it with, there's an app called, I'm drawing a blank, Flipboard, and you can literally choose the topics that you want to hear about. So the only things that I see are self-improvement, climate change, things that I'm interested in and that I care about and passionate about that I know are going to help to uplift me and say, okay, what can I do, how do I change this? And then, that kind of gets me sort of going, and then I do my coffee and I do my thing, and then I go, and I actually had ACL surgery, playing basketball, I hurt my knee. And so now I've gotten the stretching routine, success habit, where the first week or two I was like, oh, this sucks. And then once I start doing it, now I'm pretty much healed, but I still have that habit, and I still do it every morning, and I do it in the shower while saying my mantra. Mantra's huge. Your mantra is essentially, when you guys do figure out what these things are, that you want to make sure that you're stopping whatever bad habits you might have developed coming up through the system, and whatever ones you then want to replace them with, your mantra puts that all together. And it's literally a daily reminder to say, this is what's important, this is what I know makes me happy, and this is what I'm going to be focusing on today. I've got the one where I memorize mine, and so I say it in the shower as I'm stretching, so it doesn't even feel like I call it habit stacking. So you're doing multiple success habits at once, and it doesn't even feel like you're really doing anything. And actually, I did not implement that term. That's from James Clear, Atomic Habits. So
I'm going to switch gears, but I do want to give the crowd one last chance to focus on any topics here, if you'd like. With that said, I want to go a little bit topical. I know I'm going a bit narrow, but I would love to come back to this even more towards the end. But I want to hear a little bit more about your journey with Doorstep. If you could share with us the inceptions all the way to the exit, just in a snippet. I have some questions around it. If you could share with everyone what that journey was like. I know it's a big question I'm asking, but just
yeah, I'll try to get that right. So, are you guys all familiar with Lake Eola? Yeah. So I was sitting at Lake Eola with my girlfriend at the time, and we were talking. And I was looking up at these huge. This was right in the financial boom where real estate was taking off around 2007ish, and I had this job and I was selling land, and I thought, what do all these people? There's all these people are moving into our land. Like, what do they need? What? And so, kind of going back to the question he asked earlier, when you're trying to think of a product, you've gotta. It's not just about what makes you happy and revs your engine, and it's not only about what's going on today, but you need to look to the future. Like, where are we headed? That is where you're going to have the most success, because you're thinking ahead of the game, right? And you're not thinking in selfish terms like, oh, this seems like a neat idea. And another thing is lean. I don't know if anybody's read the Lean Startup or heard of it, but you just want to take action and just keep going and figuring it out along the way versus trying to get everything designed out and planned, because you're going to pivot so many times anyways. So had that idea, quit my job at Florida Land Partners where I was working with Mr. Andrew Brown, and I said, hey buddy, do you wanna do this with me? He said, I don't think there's enough money in it. Were his exact words. And I said, okay. And we had a few more conversations, and that was right around the time when the real estate market was crashing. So I was selling land, and that was amazing for a while, but the timing was actually good. Because who knows, if the real estate market kept doing well, maybe I would have exited. But I quit, and everybody thought I was crazy, and I decided to start this company, and we bootstrapped it. You know, as he said earlier, this was before Uber Eats and Grubhub and DoorDash and all these companies, and we just did it. We were the cook, we were the chef, we were the plumber, the janitor, the dispatcher, the drivers. He and I drove every single Valentine's Day for the first few years. We started with 1 or 2 drivers, so if one of our drivers didn't show up that day, half of our workforce was gone. And I were driving, and that was in the spare bedroom. And then it started to kind of take off. And we started with all calls, right? You guys don't even realize these phones that you have, you order your food. It hasn't always been that way. That's the generation you grew up in, since you probably remember. But when we started, you had to actually call in to our dispatcher, which was us, and place your order and say, this is what I want. And then we had to basically call up our driver and say, hey, go to Chili's, pick up this order, and then we would call the restaurant, place the order. It was extremely archaic. And we decided we were using a software that was very unadvanced. And right at that time, the iPhone came out, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, you can get GPS. So like, we started to get a little bit bigger, and the really good drivers that were like serious about it had Garmin. They were called Garmin's GPS. You guys probably know what those are. Basically, these big things you put on your dashboard to be able to get around. And then these phones now, it's like all of a sudden we can send them the order over the phone, and we can, they have a map where they can get to the place. We're like, oh my God, this is like unbelievable. But we bootstrapped it, we didn't go big, we started with our own money, and we just started kind of building our momentum slowly but surely. And it was like in our first year, maybe a year and a half, we got our first big client, which was EA Sports, the video game designer. And we went from doing like, 20 orders and took up a total of around 1,000 a day to EA Sports was kind of training like placing $2,000 orders for their entire staff of these coders that are just in their thing, building the video games. And we were like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And so that was kind of another stepping stone. And there was just, but in between all this, like I was saying earlier, there were so many failures that we had. There were so many times when we just got knocked down. We had our first manager we ever hired told us that her grandmother died, and we had a camera in the office that we had just installed, and she came in and she robbed our cash box. And there's so many. Oh, and there was a guy who we were going to try to partner with. It was called O-Cards at the time. Do you guys still have rickshaws downtown? I live in Chicago now, so you guys know what rickshaws are? Like those little bicycles where they pedal you around. So we talked to this guy, and we had this idea. We're thinking maybe you could be the one that delivered the food because you already had this fleet of these rickshaw drivers. Didn't hear back from him. 2 months later, before we even opened up, we see that he's opened up the exact same business, basically competing with us. And so we ordered it, and he comes to our house, and it was him. He was delivering. I was like, hey man, how's it going? This is a really neat business you got. He was like, I was just waiting for you guys to open up. So there was just so many of these little things that came along the way, and it was just so insane. And but we just kept pushing forward one step at a time, and then started growing, and then we franchised it out. We had corporate locations. So by the end, after about 8 years, we ended up having 19 branches. We had, God, how many drivers did we have at that time? 1,200 drivers. And it was pretty neat to see it grow from this little seedling in his spare bedroom into this. And then at the same time, actually right before I started Doorstep, I had Rollins Rentals. So I rent houses to students. And so I've got 10 houses that I rent, that I also have my other best friend, business partner who I went to Rollins with, who graduated a year after me. His name is Jay Geiser. And we started that together. So I was simultaneously doing the Rollins Rentals business, renting family or student-friendly housing to off-campus housing to students, and that was really neat. And so that was kind of going at the same time, and that was providing me with enough passive income to sort of pay my bills while we weren't making enough money in Doorstep at the beginning. And then once Doorstep started making money, it kind of snowballed and became this life of its own and momentum. And then Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Amazon, I swear to God, they all decided to open up like the same day. And I'll never forget, Andrew and I, we kind of looked at each other and we're just like, we can't compete with companies that have billions of dollars that are intentionally losing money to get customers. And they were poaching all of our restaurants, right? So they were going to our restaurants and they're saying, hey, we'll do it for free for a year. And they were sending out these flyers like, hey, here's free delivery on your next 10 orders. And here we were, we were trying to make a profit. They were intentionally trying to lose money to gain market share. So straight up, I saw the writing on the wall, and I said, this ain't gonna fly, so we gotta get out. So I made some calls, and there was this other company that just happened to be a similar size to us out of Minneapolis. And we said, look, if we're gonna have a shot at this, we gotta merge. They had better software than we did. We actually did develop our own app, but theirs was better. And then they quadrupled in size after they bought us, and then that's when we had this exit this past year. So that's kind of the.
So amazing. Yes.
I just want to point something out here, Will. In both cases with Rollins Rentals and with Doorstep Delivery, you said, you have 10 houses and then we had 19 branches at the end of it all, as well as a franchising company and a software company. And you also said we funded this whole thing ourselves, right? And so something I just want to share with the room here is kind of how you did that. How we did that. You started with one house, right? You get a little bit of equity, you take some money out, you buy the second house, right? The same thing with Doorstep Delivery. We started with 0 orders a day, right? We were calling friends and family, started with a tiny bit of money that we had in our pockets from our last job selling land before that market fell apart. And you just lived at a modest level, what you thought was appropriate, and took all that money and reinvested it and grew slowly every single day. And it's about a 10-year journey.
That's 100% right, and that ties into that slide I had about compounding. You know, compounding, it's gonna do its thing over time. It doesn't care, you know, habits don't care if they're good or bad. Money doesn't care. All it knows is it's gonna continue to compound. If I asked everybody in this room, would you rather have $1 million or $1 a day doubled for the next 30 days? Immediately, what would most of you guys say? Double. I might have let you guys do that. The point is, yes, the double ends up being way more, and that is the law of compounding at its finest. Nothing happens overnight, and this instant generation you guys are living in right now, where you see that 16-year-old kid who's making $100,000 a month on sponsorships because he did some crazy stuff on Instagram, and now he's got this huge following. Do not pay attention to that stuff. That's not real life. That's like one in a zillion type of thing. The way you're going to succeed is to figure out what you truly are passionate about, what you love to do, what you're good at, and marrying that with your purpose, figuring out what your purpose is, setting goals on it, and then just not stopping no matter what. It's all about discipline. That's what it comes down to. And unfortunately, your generation it is becoming harder for you guys. I feel bad. Like, it's harder to be self-disciplined when you can hit a button and get anything you want delivered to you. You can, basically, what are you guys 80 now? These things, what's happening? I missed that whole generation, right? You did the Tinder and whatnot. I don't know if they went out and they always change. But I've heard from people that it's kind of ruining relationships, and it's not the traditional like back when I met women, we had to go up to them and say hello.
Well, I think still works that way.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that. But I know you have. Maybe that stuff's not cool. I don't know. But when I heard about that,
But thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for bouncing off of that. I think we're learning a whole lot. I want to throw it back to the crowd. If we have any questions, any comments, anything you want to learn more about, I know we have about 5 or 7 minutes or so to our regular time, so I just want to throw it back to the crowd. Do we have any questions? Anyone here?
I have a quick question. Starting off with the businesses, how did you deal with sort of the mental and emotional challenges that might have came with it in regards to the fear of maybe starting something that is new or entering a market that might have been very competitive? Because for a lot of us that are interested in being entrepreneurs, there's this sort of unknown uncertainty that comes over that sort of thought process. So for me, I would want to know how you dealt with that starting off, and how, if you did hit a rough patch, how did you try to maneuver that to get where you were?
good question. So when I was talking about those fours, the mindset was the first four we talked about, and that's that whole getting your mind working for instead of against you, making sure that you're what I call a growth owner instead of a fixed victim, which means you know you have everything within you to accomplish what you want, and obstacles are temporary roadblocks just waiting for solutions. And we all have our own set of superpowers, our own strengths, and our own passions, and the worst thing you can do is just ignore that and just do what you think somebody else wants you to do, or I don't want to say, I don't want to get in big trouble with parents and stuff, but you've got to follow your heart, and if you do truly love what you're doing, and you know that you're good at it, and you know that you can succeed, there's a huge difference there between being like, I'm doing this because I know I probably should. You're never gonna get the most out of it, and you're never gonna be able to push through those walls and those obstacles. And as far as fear is concerned, that little meme, I love that Yoda gave the finger. I literally, when I start to get afraid of something, like just today, I have not spoken a lot, and I'm just kind of starting this new chapter in my life, and I started to get those little butterflies, and I just thought of Yoda, and I'm like, give fear the finger, because it's like, fear is not real. That's another one. It's a primal instinct, and literally is something where in our caveman days, we had this fight or flight thing, and it helped us get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger by having that fear. But in today's context, our brains haven't evolved enough, so that's still there. And we get so afraid of all these things that come along in our lives. Oh, what if I fail? What if I, and that ties into, you know, your upbringing and the whole like system that we've grown up in, where it's like, you need to do this, and you need to do that. If you don't do that, you're a failure. You know, I could go on and on about the testing system and the fact that, you know, you're still judged on the grades you get, yet everybody's minds were completely different. You know, some people are more creative, some people are more analytical, and all these things. So at the end of the day, getting that mindset going for you and saying, I know that I can do whatever I want. It's not easy, it doesn't happen overnight, and it comes with your confidence builds the more success you have, right? So you do something, you have a success, and you're like, okay, and you have a little bit more, and you're like, all right, and then, you know, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I can do this. There's nothing I can't do. And that's when you really start to take off.
It's a great insight. And great question too. Thank you, Isaac.
Yeah.
Do we have any? Michaela has one.
Well, primarily, thank you for coming and speaking to us, but I was just wondering, how were you able to recognize or become cognizant of bad habits in your business and then alter them into good habits?
The bad habits in my business? Right, so you heard me say earlier, it's not about becoming an entrepreneur in business. I realized when I took the 10,000 foot view, it's about becoming an entrepreneur in your life. And it's about running your life the same way that you would a business, right? Every business has different facets. You've got your marketing, you've got your sales, you've got your administration. These are all things that I coordinate with the cores, right? So your cores really are your business, and you gotta treat them as such. And in terms of habits that you're gonna build, you know, I was able to fortunately build some really good habits with my business, and discipline was one of them, being able to push through the tough times. And then I translated that over to my other cores, and so it's like with my physical health, you know, it's like, I really don't wanna go to the gym today, but it's about discipline. It's that self-discipline I was talking about. It's become so hard for so many of you guys, because it's like you can kind of get whatever you want these days, and it's making it harder. But if you're able to have that self-discipline, to make a commitment to yourself, and to be able to follow through with it no matter what, that is what's gonna separate you from the rest of the crowd, because a lot of other people, they aren't doing that. They're succumbing to those instant gratifications, and they're just saying, you know what, it's easier to do this, I'm gonna do that. They're never gonna be firing on all cylinders. They're never gonna reach that ultimate happiness and feel that true joy. When I say, you know, firing on all cylinders, there's people that are happy enough. You know, like there's a lot of people I know that I say, are you happy? Yeah, I'm happy. But are you really? Like, how happy are you? And to me, it's like, if there's different levels of happiness, and there's a way to be to fire on all cylinders and be happy and be killing at each of these cores and really feel that joy and human excitement and passion like you had when you were a kid. And trust me, it can't come back, and it's there. It's like, why not do that? And the way to do that is to develop that discipline and follow through on those commitments that you make to yourself.
Thank you. Well, I was wondering if I could jump in there with one of my questions. You're talking about bad habits, and I'm going back to how my wife tells me that I'm doing this wrong and that wrong. I'm trying to understand, how does partnerships fall into this model? And what has your experience been with those key, it doesn't have to be a romantic partner, it can be business partners. How have they been a part of firing on all cylinders? How do they become a part? How do you think that comes in?
Yeah, so the three different types of relationships that I have within that core, it's your colleagues and acquaintances. So I consider you guys this, and you guys, if you don't know each other, you might consider each other that. People that you run into day to day and have interactions with, and you don't think about it much, but if you're looking down at your phone when you pass somebody instead of smiling, when you're having a conversation, you're not looking somebody in the eye, if you're not asking them questions about themselves and showing that you're truly interested and care about what they're saying, you may not think it's a big deal, but you may completely miss out on a relationship that you could have with that person in the future. And at the end of the day, we all just want to feel special, right? And so when you're able to do that, you're able to make somebody feel special, that is going to really boost boost that relationship, whether it's in a partnership, business-wise, being respectful of one another and saying, this is what you're good at, this is what I'm good at. You know, I trust you, I respect you, do your thing, and praise them when they do good things. And same in a relationship with your significant other. It's getting on the same team and being like, I appreciate you for the, you know, women and men can be a little different sometimes. For my wife, it's appreciation is everything. She just wants to feel appreciated. So what's one of the habits that I've developed in my relationship? Every single day, I make her feel appreciated. And it's become a habit that I do, and whether it's just sending her a text saying, hey, I miss you today, I love you, or when she comes through the door, telling her she looks beautiful, just simple little things, and they add up, you know, just like the compounding. And whether it's your friends, your significant other, your business partner, treat them the way you want to be treated in any way.
I'm going to open the floor up for one last question. If not, I want to ask you one other thing.
Okay.
Do we have anything else that someone's dying to ask? We can always ask him personally later on as well, but anything else that we might, yes?
I'll form this in a question.
Yes.
We were talking about something last night, and we were talking about what leads to success, right? And you've been through different industries, you didn't necessarily go to school for those types of things. What would you attribute to your success?
So, success is a loaded word to me, because when you guys think of the word success, I'm guessing that you would probably primarily associate it with finances. That's how I think most of the world does, but it goes back to what I was saying earlier, where it's like to be really successful is to be happy, period. And you're not going to get it just with finances in your career. That is 1/5 of the equation. But you have to figure out how to fire on all 5 cylinders. So to me, to truly be successful, you have to figure out a way to stop those failure habits and be building positive versus negative momentum every single day. And you know, in terms of your career, it can't be, this is my goal, and then once I get to it, I'm gonna be able to sit back and have a pina colada lying on the beach saying money ain't a thing. That's just not how it works. It has to be, you climb one mountain, what's the next mountain? And I read, there's this app, this reminds me, there was an app years ago, it's since disappeared from the App Store. Coolest friggin' app I've ever seen in my life. I don't remember how I got turned on to it. It was one of those universe kind of put me in touch with it serendipitously. But it was called The Meaning of Life. And it said, we strive for more because we feel dissatisfied. We feel dissatisfied because we strive for more. And it said we strive for more, and there was a half arrow circular going down to we feel dissatisfied, and there was another half circular area going to strive for more. And at first, I was so depressed when I saw this, and I'm like, so basically, we're always just going to be dissatisfied, and there's nothing we can really do about it, no matter how much we get. But then I realized that what that's actually saying is it's about movement and momentum. It's about continually setting goals, hitting them. When you get to the top of the mountain, you don't stop. You find a bigger mountain, and you keep going. And that is going to be the key to how happy and successful you're going to be in your life. And that applies to all 5 of them, of course. You know, it's like if you have a goal in your marriage or your, you guys aren't there yet, in your relationship with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, it's like, okay, what is my first goal? What do I really want to try to get to? And then you get to that, you don't stop. It's like, okay, that was good. Things have gotten way better. This is much better. What's the next one? And you got to constantly be striving. So even though we feel dissatisfied, we strive for more. If you look at it that way, and then it's all about movement and momentum, as long as you never stop moving, you'll always be happy. It's possible.
With that, what we'll do is thank you so much, first of all. Can I get a round of applause?